Hi, this is Smart Drivers talking tonight about driving examiners, the gatekeepers that determine whether you pass or fail your driver's test. Your job, their job. Stick around, we'll give you that information. Mallory is here, Elevator Fan is here. Hello, my friends. Mallory is tuning in from the Maritimes, and Elevator Fan is tuning in from Monticello, Indiana. If you have any questions here about passing a driver's test, become a safer, smarter driver, we can help you with all of that information. That's what we're going to do tonight. We have a presentation about driving examiners, the gatekeepers, those people that determine whether you pass or fail your driver's test. And no, despite what a lot of people might think, they are not evil people with horns and are unfair and work to fail you. Indeed, they do not. Oftentimes, 9 times out of 10, unfortunately for the student simply was not ready. Now, that's not every time. Yes, there are some times that things go wrong in the driving environment that the student simply cannot handle or made an error that was an automatic fail on a driver's test. But that is usually not the case. Usually, most of the time, you simply weren't ready. You didn't do enough practice. You didn't get the information you needed to know what was on the driver's test in and around the place where you're taking your test. So, I'll give you some tips and techniques and skills here that will allow you to pass your driver's test first time. That's what we're going to do here tonight. And yes, we'll get you past the driving examiner, because your job is to demonstrate that you have due care and control of the vehicle in changing traffic conditions. Their job is to assess whether you have due care and control of the vehicle in changing traffic conditions. And you need to do some work in terms of figuring out how far around the driving center you're going to drive. It's only going to be, 5 to 8 minutes out and 5 to 8 minutes back. And if you're not taking driving lessons, one of the recommendations that I give to students who are taking their driver's test is to hire a local driving instructor and take at least one lesson with an instructor, because these professionals teach new drivers to pass a driver's test every day. They know where the test routes are. They know where the driving examiners are going to take you to do the slow speed maneuvers, the 3-point turn, the reverse parking, parallel parking, those types of things. And yes, there's only 3 places that I know of in the United States that do not do parallel parking. It seems to be somewhat of a secret. I know there's a couple of other places that don't do it, but never listen to your friends or other people on Reddit. They are not the source of the information. Go to the source of the information. The only 3 states that I know that don't do parallel parking are California, Maryland, and Ohio, and they have a different skill that you have to demonstrate to the examiner. In the state of California, you have to back up along a curb for 50 feet. In Maryland, you have to do a 2-point reverse turn, which is essentially pulling past an intersection or a driveway, and then you have to back around the corner. And then in Ohio, it's the Ohio maneuverability test, which gives students no end of grief. And there is a trick to the Ohio maneuverability test, which is you have to stay tight to the driver's side. If you're 6 to 12 inches from the cones on the driver's side, the passenger side is going to take care of itself. And it is going to take some practice to do the Ohio maneuverability test. Now, I know that there are a lot of complaints about doing the Ohio maneuverability test, doing the parallel parking, and backing up along a curb, because these slow speed maneuvers are tough. I'm not going to sugarcoat that for you. These are challenging and difficult maneuvers to learn. However, if you learn these slow speed maneuvers, you are going to be a better driver overall, because you know where your vehicle is in relation to other things. And this is what driving is all about. Figuring out where your vehicle is in relation to other vehicles on the roadway, other road users, pedestrians, cyclists, those types of things. Where your vehicle is in relationship to fixed objects, because the fundamentals of defensive driving, the fundamentals of passing a driver's test are, if you're not near anything, it's less likely that you're going to hit something. Space management. And I was walking home with the kids from school the other day, and this driver went by and they didn't even move over. We were in a suburban residential area and the driver didn't even move over. Of course, I looked behind as the back end of the car as they went past me, and it had a learner sticker on it. So somebody teaching the kid how to drive is not giving them the right information and correcting them when they're not giving pedestrians space. If you can move over, move over. If you can't move over when there's pedestrians, simply stop. Do not crowd pedestrians. It raises my ire when cars crowd me on roadways, especially on residential roadways where there's lots and lots of space for me to get over. So give yourself lots of space. Internationally, traffic statistics. Let's talk about traffic statistics. 25% of road user fatalities are pedestrians and other vulnerable road users. So give them space, because there are no fender benders when you hit a pedestrian. There are no fender benders when you hit a cyclist. All right? It is dangerous, and the result is usually going to be serious fatalities, serious injuries, those types of things. Not a serious fatality, because a fatality is just a fatality and you're dead. Okay? Serious injuries. Ross and I have handled that challenge in Ohio, and it made it easy. Awesome. Excellent. Corey's put up the Ohio maneuverability test there. And Marion is here. Hello, everyone. Sorry I'm late. I had issues with my phone. Don't you love having issues with technology, Marion? Excellent. So a few people here already. If you, like I said, if you have questions, drop us a note down in the comments. If you're watching on the replay, if you're watching live, let us know. Bulgaria. Hello, my friend. That is awesome. Excellent. All right, so we do the presentation here. The presentation is 10 or 12 minutes, and then we come back and we spend the remainder of the hour answering all your questions about passing a driver's test and becoming a safer, smarter driver. And tonight's topic is about getting past the driving examiner, the person that most people is thinking that, this thing always gives me grease. There we go. All right. Crusty old driving examiners, and they can be a little bit mean sometimes, and they can look like this, but most of them, 90% of them, are doing a great, awesome job. I'd probably say that's even higher. It's probably 96% of driving examiners are doing an awesome job, and these people are the gatekeepers, okay? If you are unfortunate enough that you do get an ogre, they're in a bad mood, they're yelling at you or snapping at you or those types of things, you simply have to say to yourself, I'm going to pass my driver's test. I'm going to do what I need to do to take away your right to fail me. Nothing less, nothing more. All right, my name is Rick August. If you're new to Smart Drive Test, I was a truck driver in the 1990s, hauled freight between Ontario, Canada, and the United States in the lower 48. I was in every state in the U.S. Most of my routes were east of the Mississippi. I did make it to the west a few times. The only 3 states that I wasn't in was Utah, New Mexico, and Nevada. Those were the only 3 U.S. states I didn't make it into. I've been in every Canadian province except Prince Edward Island. That's the only one I haven't been in. All right, I became a licensed commercial driving instructor in 1997. Did a doctorate in legal history with a specialty in policing and traffic. For those of you who may or may not know, legal history is a study of policing, courts, and prisons, and my expertise is in policing as it relates to traffic, oddly enough. While I was going to university in Australia, I drove for Greyhound and one of the regional bus lines there as well, and in 2015, crazy to think that 2015 is 9 years ago now. 2015, I started the online YouTube channel, The Business. It has been wildly more successful than I could have ever imagined. And if you want to know more about me, you can read the autobiography over at the Smart Drive Test website. You can check out rickaugustphd.com. That's my professional site for expert witness testimony. Good stuff to have a look at. Top 4 must-have skills. I'm going to talk about those top 4 must-have skills, which are speed and space management, observation, and communication. You must have those skills and techniques in place to be successful on your driver's test. As well, there is the podcast on driving examiners. Have a listen to that as well. All right, driving examiners, their job is to assess your ability to have due care and control of the vehicle in changing traffic conditions. That's what you need to do. So there's going to be different types of driving. You're going to be driving in a parking lot. You're going to be doing some slow speed maneuvers. You're going to be driving in residential areas, multi-lane roadways, stopping at stop signs, stop lights, yield signs, those types of things. They're trying to assess your ability in a very short period of time is what driving examiners are doing. Your job is to take away their right to fail you, nothing less, nothing more. And of course, this is a winter picture, and we are very quickly coming into spring, at least here in the interior of British Columbia where I live, and hopefully you are too. So when you show up for your driver's test, think about first impressions, all right? Show up 20 minutes to 15 minutes early for your driver's test. Check in if there is a DMV office. If not, simply park your vehicle in the assigned area and wait for the examiner to come out. All right, some of these places might have high-tech systems where you have to text to say that you're at the location where the test is going to happen. The night before, do a pre-trip inspection on your vehicle. Make sure that the brake lights work. Make sure that the headlights work, the windshield wipers, because it may rain on the day of your test, or snow, or those types of things, inclement weather. Know how to turn on the defrost if it's the middle of summer. Know how to turn on the air conditioning to keep the driving examiner comfortable while you're doing your test. Okay, make sure that you have the registration and insurance in your vehicle. Make sure that the horn works, the brakes work. Make sure that you check the seat belts and check the seat belts on the passenger side of the vehicle. Make sure that the doors open and close from the inside and the outside. I know all of that seems kind of obvious, but if the driving examiner gets into your car but can't get out of your car, well, that may cost you more money because you might have to take them for lunch or something while the mechanic works to get the door open on your car. So make sure that everything works on your vehicle, okay? When you show up, make sure you bring cash, because taking your driver's test does cost money, and they do charge an administration fee to issue your license to you. So know that you have cash, make sure you have your driver's license with you, and make sure that you have other forms of ID. First impressions: have a shower, comb your hair, put on decent clothes, okay, those types of things, because they do judge you, as we do judge everybody in terms of first impressions. There are some myths around driving examiners and, unfortunately, driving instructors. Those people who are in my profession are these people that perpetuate these myths that you can't wear sunglasses when you're driving. You can't engage in conversation. I wouldn't encourage you to engage in conversation, but if it's halfway through the test and the test is going well and the examiner starts to talk to you, then yes, you can speak to them, okay? Examiners work to fail you. That is not true. They have supervisors and managers to whom they have to answer to who they have to answer to, rather. So examiners have a quota. They do not have a quota. They want to see you pass, okay? Because trust me, it's not fun telling somebody that they did not pass their test. And in the state of New York and in New York City, you no longer get debriefed by the driving examiner because they've had issues of violence against driving examiners. So now, after you take your driver's test that evening, you have to go on to their website, the DMV website, and check in and find out whether you passed or not. Okay? I have to speak English perfectly. No, you do not. And examiners are unfair. None of this is true for driving examiners. They're all myths. All right, so most common mistakes and automatic fails on driver's test. Have a look at these two videos, and as well chance events that could happen on your road test. And Corey will put up those videos for you to have a look at. But make sure that you do the pre-trip inspection, as I mentioned already. Horn, lights, visors, seats, seat belts. Check all the fluids under the in the engine compartment. Make sure that you have enough fuel, okay? Because it would be rather embarrassing if you ran out of fuel during your driver's test. I haven't heard of that happening too much, but I have heard of students being denied their driver's test because their insurance was not valid, or they borrowed their uncle's car and the uncle was from another state that didn't require a license plate on the front of the vehicle. So there are reasons that you will be denied your driver's test. So make sure that you do your pre-trip inspection to make sure your vehicle is up to snuff. One of the most common reasons, let me back up. 2 reasons that you will fail a driver's test. You will be assigned demerit points for making mistakes, is the first way. If you accumulate too many demerits, you will not be successful on your test. Most tests are 35 points, okay? Minor errors, say for example, you failed to signal, that's 5 points. Major errors are going to be 10 points. For example, you make a right turn and you drift over into the left lane. That is going to be 10 to 15 points. Once you accumulate 35 points, that's a fail on your driver's test. The other way that you can fail your driver's test is an outright fail, which is blocking an intersection. You can't clear the traffic light turns red, and I'm not talking about left turns, I'm talking about proceeding straight through an intersection as an automatic fail. If you're doing the Ohio maneuverability test and you strike a cone, that is an automatic fail on a driver's test. So 2 ways you can fail: too many demerit points or an outright fail. You strike a fixed object will cause you to fail in your driver's test. So shoulder checking, shoulder checking, shoulder checking. Remember, as I say, not shoulder checking in a vehicle is to not shoulder checking when driving is to safety, road safety. I can't say it right now. I'll talk to you later. Okay, space in front. You cannot adjust your mirrors to see into your blind areas when you're parallel parking, and technology is just a backup. You can use blind spot detectors. You can use backup cameras and those types of things, but you can't rely on them as your primary line of sight. All right, okay, you can use a backup camera, but you still have to be looking out through the back window when you're reversing. Road signs, okay, failing to adjust speed according to sign, lane ends, and you don't merge. Stop signs, you must know the difference between 2-way stop signs and 4-way stop signs. And school zone signs, okay, speeding in a school zone, speed zone is an automatic fail on a driver's test. So know if school is in session, know where the school speed zone areas are, okay. Road markings, and despite what people think that it's illegal, it's not illegal to cross over a solid white line. If you do it consistently on a driver's test, you will not be successful on your driver's test. We had one driving school inspector who was sitting in on a course that I was teaching about instructing driving instructors, and that was his pet peeve, was people making lane changes across solid white lines at intersections and at crosswalks. So don't do that. All right, slow speed maneuvers, parallel parking, backing into a parking space, 2-point reverse turn. These only make up about 1/8 of the test. However, despite the fact that they make up only a very small portion of the test, it's this 1/8 of the test that gives students the most grief. So practice these slow speed maneuvers, parking, 3-point turns, okay? It will improve your overall driving. You will be a better driver overall. Because not only will you figure out where your vehicle is in relation to other things on the roadway, you will also get mastery of the primary controls, the accelerator, the brake, and the steering wheel. And those 3 things often work in combination. You need to figure out how they work in combination, and slow speed maneuvers will teach you that. Lane positioning, move to the right lane after turning left, and no, the examiner will not tell you this information. Okay, when you're turning left on multi-lane roads, move left lane to left lane and right lane to right lane. Merging, lane changes, and moving the vehicle laterally. Okay, these are all skills and abilities and techniques that you need to demonstrate to the examiner, and you must communicate effectively. Okay, position of your vehicle, lights and signals, eye contact, hand gestures, and finally using the horn to communicate with other road users of your intent on the roadway. The driving examiner's job is to assess competency, score on demerit points. It's a pass-fail. In most places, they will give you a debrief and a feedback. However, in places like New York City and other large metropolitan areas, they will not give you a debrief. You will simply have to log into the DMV website after your test that evening, and they will tell you digitally via the internet whether you passed or failed your driver's test. And that's unfortunate because we've lost some ability to give drivers some feedback on things that they may or may not need to work on. So good luck on your driver's test, and remember, pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. All right. There we go. Okay. Marion, pedestrians are crossing at the intersection. You should advance towards them so that you are close to them. You need to give them space to cross safely. Yes, indeed. Ross and I do sometimes have issues with the internet being unstable. Yeah, that happens. All right. Excellent. Okay. Cameo. I had a mean one on my first time, but I understand. They're getting into a vehicle with someone they don't know who isn't certain to be competent on the roadways. And yes, before you, that is elevator fan. If the driving examiner intervenes in your test, yes, that is an automatic fail on your driver's test, unfortunately. And I have had that happen with students. Also, if the driving instructor, which would be me, intervenes in the test, and this isn't a car license, this was a tractor trailer license, and in Victoria on Vancouver Island, which is the capital of British Columbia, Victoria, at the driving test center, when they pulled in with the tractor trailer, they had to parallel park into a space next to a concrete wall. And of course, we went out on the weekends, we went in after hours, and we practiced with students and those types of things. And this one student did not have enough time in the truck. He wasn't ready for his test. I knew he wasn't ready for the test. And he backed in there. And of course, I don't know what the driving examiner was doing, but he had the truck and the trailer, and it was all cockeyed. And I knew that he couldn't see what was going on with the trailer, and the back end was going to bang into the wall. And of course, I run across the parking lot, and I'm like, whoa, 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 and I'm screaming my head off for him to stop because he's got it wrong and he's still going. And of course, truck stops, brakes come on, the examiner just gets out of the truck, she walks across the parking lot, walks into the building, and I was like, what just happened? And I went in and talked to the manager, and the manager was like, he didn't pass his driver's test because you intervened. And I was like, I didn't intervene. He was going to hit the wall. So the piece is, do you save the student from hitting something, or do you intervene and then, try and help out? Well, it didn't work out. So, but yes, exactly what Elevator Fan said there, that if the driving examiner intervenes, that's an automatic fail on a driver's test. Yeah, Marion, I am sick again. I was sick all weekend. I blame my daughter. She's been sick since Thursday. So yeah, and that is part of life that is simply not fair, because I've literally been sick for the last 6 to 8 weeks. And I'm just like, that's not fair. But it is what it is. Elevator Fan, make sure that you clean out your car the day before your driver's test. Yes, absolutely. First impressions, okay? Clean out your car, take it down to the local wash, get it vacuumed, get all the fast food wrappers out of the footwells and those types of things, because first impressions, okay? You don't want all that garbage and dirt in your vehicle. And you'd be surprised what just vacuuming it out and throwing out the garbage out of your car is going to do to make it feel so much better. So yes, definitely do that before going down for your driver's test. And for those of you going with a driving school, make sure that you ask the driving instructor whether he or she did a pre-trip inspection on the vehicle before you go down for your driver's test. Okay, when I was in the truck, because most of my tests have been in the big trucks, the tractor trailers, that was my day. I would come in early before the test in the morning. I would clean the truck, and then of course the student would come in the morning, and we would go over the pre-trip inspection one more time, because on tractor trailers, they as part of the driver's license test, they have to do a pre-trip inspection, and on a tractor trailer it takes 45 minutes to do that pre-trip inspection. So we did that before we went down for the driver's test on that day. Marion, yep, kids bring home all the bugs, don't they? I hope you feel better soon. Yeah, me too. Because Marion, I just got over the last one. I just got back to working out again, and then Friday I was like, oh, I'm sick again. And actually it was so bad on Sunday, I actually considered going to Emerge to get some antibiotics. I am losing what I'm trying to say tonight. Kojiv, I passed my driving test at the 4th time by borrowing someone else's car. The driving school did not even accept me anymore. That's unfortunate, but you did pass, and that is awesome news. Congratulations on your tenacity, on keeping going there. That is awesome. Can't understand why the driving school wouldn't take you anymore. That's weird. What happens when someone fails their driving test in Ohio? Rawson, there's a couple of pieces there, and it's a little bit complicated in the state of Ohio, because it depends whether you're over the age of 18. If you're over the age of 18 and you fail the Ohio maneuverability test, so there's 2 parts to the Ohio test. There's the Ohio maneuverability test part, and then there is the on-road part, or the course part. Okay, so some counties, some places will have on-road, they take you out and drive around on the road, and then other places will have a course set up in a parking lot, and you got to drive around on the course. Now, if you don't pass the Ohio maneuverability test, if you're over the age of 18, I believe it is, then you have to take the online defensive driving course. It's really kind of complicated. And And if you live in the state of Ohio, you want to know whether you're, I think it's 18 is the age, but know all of that stuff. And I've had people talk to me about it and those types of things. But there's so many different kinds of tests. Everybody makes it a little bit different. I don't know why I don't know why this is regulated at the state level. It just drives me crazy. Driving is driving, okay? It's the same in Nevada as it is in Quebec. It's not any different. The signs and traffic lights are a little bit different. You might be able to turn right on a red light and those types of things, but driver's licensing and licensing should be regulated at the federal level. Licensing should be regulated at the federal level. If you get a driver's license anywhere in the United States, it's a federal license. You can go anywhere. You don't have to change it back and forth and those types of things. It's the same thing in Canada. It should be the same all the way across the country. It's so weird that every state gets involved in this and everybody's got their finger in the pie and everybody's changing it slightly. It's just crazy. Corey, applicants for an initial driver's license who are age 18 or older and who fail their first attempt at the maneuverability or road portion of the driving test will be required to take an abbreviated adult driver training course before attempting the driving test for the second time. There you go. It was 18. Thank you for looking that up for me, Corey, and refreshing my memory. I knew there was a piece that if they fail that maneuverability test, then they got to take driver training. So it's an online abbreviated driver training course. So yeah, it's a bit crazy how it goes on with the Ohio maneuverability test, and it's not much different in other states in the U.S. For the same thing. Once you hit that 18 years old, it's a little bit weird. Okay. Elevator fan, I will be driving on the interstates tomorrow. Any good tips? Okay, elevator fan, yes, lots of good tips. Corey will put up the videos for you on merging, using cruise control, use cruise control, get into the lane. If it's 3 lanes, the center lane is your best lane because the right lane is your passing lane and the inside lane is people are getting off and there's traffic that's merging out on the roadway. So you get in that center lane. Find a speed that you're comfortable with, which is the posted speed limit or keeping up with traffic flow because it's always going to be a bit higher than what the posted speed limit is. Keep your space. Okay, that 3 to 4 second following distance. Stay out of the clusters on the interstate because people are going to drive in packs for whatever reason. There's some force amongst the driving population that everybody wants to drive in a cluster of 10, 12 people. If you can figure out where you're going first and what the mile marker is for the exit that you're going to get off at when you get off on the interstate, then that's really going to help you out because, if you're getting near exit 380 and you're at exit 375, you got 5 miles up the road that you're going to get off the interstate. So mile markers will really help you out a lot to keep you safe on the roadway. Take note of on-ramps and off-ramps because know that that's where traffic is going to be getting on and off the roadway. And, when you're coming up on an on-ramp and you look over and you see big trucks and those types of things, if you can get over into the other lane, that's going to keep you safer as well when you're driving. Now, what's the last piece I need to tell you about interstates? Once you get into urban areas, I don't know if you're going to be in around Indianapolis or those types of things, but if you get into urban areas, it's going to be a lot busier and those types of things. The other piece is if you have the luxury of determining what time you're going to be going, if you can avoid rush hour in the morning and rush hour in the afternoon, that too is going to make your driving on the interstate a lot easier. Mallory, if you're nice to the driving examiner will be nice to you. Yes, most of the time, Mallory, that's going to work out. And like I said, they are nice. They're vested a little bit in helping you to pass. They want you to pass. Okay, they don't want you to fail because we hate telling people that they are not successful on their driver's test. And the other piece about this is if you have driver training or driver training of some form, you take 1 or 2 lessons with a driving instructor, the chances of passing go up dramatically. 90%. You have much higher than 90% chance of actually passing your driver's test if you have some form of driver training. All right. And like I say, just if you're not taking any sort of driver training, then 3 to 4 weeks before your driver's test, call a driving school, book 1 driving lesson, and then get them to do a mock road test with you. The driving instructor will take you out on the routes that the examiner is going to take you out on. They will take you to the same place where they do the slow speed maneuvers. And on the weekends, go into the DMV center and practice backing into the parking space. And if they do, say for example, they do parallel parking with cones at the test center, oftentimes they'll leave that set up on the weekends and after hours. You can go in and practice and do those sorts of things, and you'll be ready for all of that. So know that and practice in and around the test center. The other piece that I tell students is make sure that you practice your driver's test in and around the test center at the time of your driver's test. If your driver's test, for example, is at 10 o'clock in the morning, go to the DMV at 10 o'clock in the morning and drive around the area at that time in the morning to figure out what traffic conditions are going to be like at the time of your driver's test. And that's going to take away some of the anxiety around all of that as well. Rawson is using hands-free device to make a phone call safe. No, Rawson, it's not. You are just as distracted as if you're using a handheld phone. So it doesn't matter whether you have hands-free dice or not. And I know I have hands-free in the buggy, and when I answer the phone call, I'm distracted. Okay, I know that. So it doesn't matter one way or the other, whether you're using hands-free or hands-felt. So it's up to you. It's a personal decision. It is legal to use hands-free, but it's a personal decision whether you're going to do it or not. Yonchev, I got my driver's license 2 weeks ago, and I already have 4 independent drives, 2 in quiet part of the city, 1 in the rural area, and today I decided to go into a busier part of the city. That is awesome. Congratulations, my friend, on passing your driver's test and successful solo drives, because yes, there is a big transition between being in the vehicle with your mentor or a driving instructor and learning how to drive and actually driving by yourself. Okay, and there's a lot of things going on, and Corey will put the videos up for you on new drivers, videos for new drivers, and some of the skills and abilities that you could put in place that are going to keep you safe after you get your license. Marion, when is a good time to change from winters to summers on the car? Marion, probably any time now you can put your summers back on. You're going to be just fine. I don't think we're going to get much more snow. I mean, unless you're planning a trip through the mountains here in the next couple of months, you're going to be just fine. I have been in the mountains on Easter weekend coming over the Coke, and there's been a lot of snow on it. But if you have all-season tires that are rated M&S or the mountain snowflake symbol, and you get a bit of snow, you're going to be just fine. You're not going to need your winter tires on all the time. So it's a personal decision, but me personally, anytime now, I'm going to put the all-seasons back on the buggy. And take the winners off of it. Betsy, hello Rick, I passed my test yesterday. Your videos helped a lot, and that is awesome. Thank you so much, Betsy, for stopping back and letting us know you were successful on passing your driver's test. And thank you for letting us know that we were able to help out and help you with your success and your win there. That is tremendous. How's the solo driving going? Klaus, my friend, how are you? You're more than allowed to be halfway through the live stream because, you know, it is 1 o'clock in the morning for you, my friend. Thank you. I have on the summers. Okay, excellent. All right. Rawson, okay, answered that question. Excellent. Elevator, you said you're going to Lafayette, Indiana tomorrow. Yes, you're going to be just fine. Just implement those skills and abilities. And Corey's put up the videos for 5 tips to drive safe on the freeway, and that's really going to help you out. But most important, as I said, in terms of highways and interstates, stay out of the clusters. Okay? Stay out of the clusters. Get yourself a speed. Find the speed that you want to travel at. Put the vehicle on cruise control. You know, put a nice music on if that's what you want to listen to in your car. Podcast, you want to listen to a podcast, or you want to listen to an audiobook or those types of things. Me personally, I like to listen to audiobooks when I'm driving long distances and on the interstates and whatnot. And this summer, and I'm trying to figure out how I'm going to document this, driving to Ontario, which we did in 2020, which is crazy to think that was 4 years ago. But we're going to do it again this time. The last time, because of COVID, we went through Canada, and this time we're going to drive through the United States, which is actually faster because of the interstates and whatnot. So we're going to drive down from Vernon to Spokane, Washington, then across through Montana. Now, both the kids are going to be in Ontario before me, so I'm going to drive out by myself. And then we're going to do a road trip coming back late August We're going to come through Michigan, Kalamazoo. We're going to go into Chicago, Wisconsin. We're going to go to the Badlands in South Dakota and Mount Rushmore, and then we're going to go up through parts of Wyoming and Montana into Washington State. And I'm really looking forward to it because, I drove truck through all those states in the 1990s. I never really saw anything because driving truck is not a vacation in any stretch of the imagination. But we're probably going to take 7 days and come back through and spend some time in these places. I'm really excited about going to Chicago, spending some time downtown, exploring, and really want to go and see the Badlands. I've never been to the Badlands in South Dakota. And of course, the tourist attraction of Mount Rushmore, I mean, that's, you see it in the movies and those types of things. So I'm pretty excited about seeing that as well. And just, seeing that part of the country and doing some hiking and spending some time there, I think it's going to be really great. A really great trip. So, I might spend some time and actually document some of that and put it up on the YouTube channel so other people can see, and doing a road trip and how much fun that is and whatnot. Now, one of the things that if anybody is planning a road trip in the summertime, you need to actually sit down and do some planning for long trips, okay? Because you're going to drive a certain amount of distance in a day. And if you're doing a road trip, it's 3,000 miles from Wingham, Ontario, where my mom lives, all the way back to where we live here. And, 7 days, you got to run 300-400 miles a day. Now, not being crazy, if you're driving a long time, 500-600 miles is going to take 8 or 9 hours of driving in a day. So, one of the things you got to do in the summertime is you got to plan on how far you're going to drive, how long it's going to take you, and where you're going to stay. Because let me tell you, you need to book hotel rooms, especially you get into these tourist areas like Mount Rushmore and the Badlands and those types of things, because there aren't going to be any hotel rooms. If you just show up and walk into a hotel and go, oh, hey, you got some room, you got to book this and plan this in advance, and you got to know where you're going to be, and you need to stick to that itinerary. Otherwise, you might not even be lucky enough to get a spot for your tent in a campsite somewhere. So you need to do that. And I mean, I will tell you that when we did this in 2020 and we drove back across Canada, I sat down every day and I knew exactly how far we were going to drive, and I knew which hotels I had booked. And I had been in hotels and listening to people asking the receptionist whether they had rooms, and they'd said, oh, we've been to 12 places, we called 15 other places, nobody's got any rooms. No, it's not, because it's the middle of summer and it's their busiest season. So you've got to plan your trips in the summertime, especially if you're doing road trips and those types of things, and pre-book your hotels. And I would say at least 2 weeks out on your hotel rooms. Otherwise, you're going to be sleeping in the car, which is something that you don't want to be doing in the middle of summer. Ross and I have never done a road trip before as a solo driver. Yeah, it's lots of fun, Ross, and you should definitely do it for sure. Evan, at the beginning of these tests, there will tell me questions. One is show me question, and the other is tell me question. Also, you need to see at least 20 meters reading license plates. Evan, the 20 meters reading license plates. Okay, now they do in all of the places that I've been in and all the places I've been, and I don't know whether this is different in the United States, but they do an eye test as part of your learner's permit, okay? So they test your eyesight before you do a learner's permit, and they ask you whether you are required to wear prescription glasses, okay? So I don't know why they would be asking you if you can read a license plate at 20 meters, okay? Because that's already been taken care of as part of the learner's permit. And for those of you that wear prescription glasses, you will have that as a requirement on your driver's license. Now, the other tell me questions and show me questions, this is something new, and this must be something that they're doing in something different states, or some bureaucrat decided that this was a good thing to test, because I've heard about this a little bit in the last few months where students are asking, oh, what do I say when this question, or what do I say in that question? I don't understand why examiners, I don't, okay, first off, let me just back up here a second. First off, there's no evidence to suggest that examiners are doing this, okay, other than hearsay. And I'm not saying that it's not true. I'm just saying that I don't have anything to confirm that this is in fact happening. Because there's a lot of rumors The students who are taking driver's tests and people who are preparing for driver's tests, there's a lot of rumors about, oh, the driving examiner asked me to do this or asked me to do that, which in many cases I find out is not true. And here's my thinking behind this. I have a student that's freaking out, can barely drive, barely has the skills to drive, and now I'm going to ask them to not only drive, but I'm going to ask them to think about a theoretical question while they're driving. It's as bad as if I asked them to answer the phone while they're driving. It's distracting and it's not safe. It's neither safe for the student nor it's safe for the examiner. So if this is in fact true, I would be writing letters personally on my behalf to the state DMV, and I would be saying to them that this is not a safe practice. This is completely and utterly unsafe for the driving student, and it is unfair to them because you should not be thinking about theoretical questions. That's the purpose of the learner's test. That is not the purpose of the test when you're driving the car. Okay, so I would need to look into this and make sure that it is in fact, this is what they're doing. Okay. Evan, emergency stop is only in the UK. No, an emergency stop, Evan, is not only in the UK. The province of Ontario does an emergency stop as well. And anybody who is driving for the purposes of their test, if you do not stop immediately for an emergency vehicle as an automatic fail on a driver's test, and in that event, you have to do an emergency stop. You have to stop on the side of the road, put your signal on, stop the car, apply the parking brake. In some instances, you might want to apply the four-way flashers to indicate to other traffic behind you that you're stopped, because of course, as we know, not all traffic stops when emergency vehicles are approaching. And I was telling that to one of the people that I was on in a course last year when I was down in Maryland, and they said, oh, I could pass the driver's test, and I said, not likely. And of course we went out and we're driving around in the car, and they were driving, an emergency vehicle went by and they just slowed down, and I said, well, you just failed your driver's test. Because people don't realize that have been driving for 10 or 15 years, they don't realize the skills and abilities that they need to have in place to be able to pass a driver's test. Most people wouldn't. They simply wouldn't, because they've been too long participating in social driving, and they're just not going to pass that. Marion, my instructor did this with me, but he made me pull over and switch the car off. Then he would ask me to tell him 5 hazards that are around me, but the test lady did not ask me any questions. Okay, my instructor did this. Okay, well, yeah, and that's different, Marion, than what we're talking about. And it's mostly been, on Reddit and other places that I hang out in terms of social media, is that they're asking these kids these questions while they're driving the car. But as you said, the examiner didn't ask you those questions while you were on the driving test. And it's exactly the reasoning that I said before, which is this person's already anxious, okay, about the driving test. They don't know what to expect. They've got somebody with a clipboard sitting beside them taking notes, and they have a low ability to drive the vehicle and handle situations in the driving environment, and now you're going to ask them questions and get them to think about it. Your instructor did exactly what needed to be done, which was to get you to stop the vehicle in a safe place, turn the engine off, and then ask you to talk about the driving environment. It was very prudent and very professional in what they did in terms of asking you those questions, but you don't ask a student those questions while they're driving. It's the same thing as when you're teaching students and they're executing a left-hand turn. Just be quiet, because they're not listening to anything that you're saying. They're completely 100% focused in on executing the maneuvers that are required of them for that vehicle and getting that vehicle safely through the corner. And asking students questions while they're driving, that is not safe. That's dangerous. Okay, that's dangerous, and it's unfair, and it's putting undue pressure on them that shouldn't be expected of them during a driver's test. Mallory, if you need to take a ferry on your summer road trip, make sure you book that in advance too. And yes, Mallory is absolutely right. So if you're going to Newfoundland, or you're going to the Vancouver Island here in the west, and other places in Scotland, Tasmania and whatnot, yes, make sure you book the ferries, because the ferries get very booked. And let me tell you, I have spent 2 or 3 sailings, which is 2 or 3 hours, sitting at the quay in Tawasin, waiting for the ferry to go to Vancouver Island is like one thing I do not miss is that ferry. And I know that when we were in Sydney, Nova Scotia, it's the ferry goes from Sydney, Nova Scotia to Port aux Basques in Newfoundland. The one truck driver that I befriended there, he had been waiting since the day before to get on the ferry because there was something weird about it. But anyway, he was in a big truck, so he had to wait for a specific sailing for him to be able to go across. Canadian, yes, you absolutely may ask a question. We'll do our best we can to answer it for you, my friend. All right. Excellent. The UK is the only place where the students are required to back up 2 car lengths along the curb on the wrong side of the road. That's what I saw in the D&G Clearview driving videos. That may be something that they have to do. They can park on the other side of the road in the UK. That's something that's totally allowed. It's definitely not allowed here in North America, that's for sure. At the beginning of the test, there will be a show me, tell me. All you need to see is 20 meters. Okay, we talked about all of that. Awesome as well. Okay, excellent. 4 skills that you need to be able to pass your driver's test: speed and space management, observation, and communication. If you're not near anything, it's less likely that you're going to hit anything. You have to stop at the right stopping position at stop sign intersections, before the stop line, before the crosswalk or sidewalk. If those 2 conditions don't exist, then at the edge of the roadway before entering the intersection is where you need to stop at controlled intersections. You need to know the difference between 4-way stop signs and 2-way stop signs. Make sure you know those, all right? If you don't understand the traffic pattern at 4-way stop signs, go down to a 4-way stop sign intersection when it's busy and watch the traffic. Pretty quickly, you'll figure out when different vehicles go at the 4-way stop sign intersections. The general rules of right-of-way at 4-way stop sign intersections: straight through traffic, or major road over minor road, straight through traffic over turning traffic, and right turning traffic over left turning traffic. Canadian, what should I expect to do on my driver's test? I'm in Saskatchewan. Don't know if that's important. Excuse me. Okay, so Canadian, you're going to do your driver's test. You're going to show up. It's going to be about 10 to 15 minutes. They're going to do a pre-trip inspection on your vehicle before you show up, so make sure you show up 10 to 20 minutes before your assigned time for your test. If signs don't prohibit it, back into the parking space at the test center where you're going to be taking your test. All right, go in, check in. As I said, you're going to have to need your driver's license. Make sure you clean your vehicle the night before. Make sure you do a pre-trip inspection on your vehicle. Make sure everything's working. All the signals, the brake lights, the fluids. Make sure you have enough gas. You have your insurance and registration for the vehicle. Make sure you check the seat belts, the seats, the doors, okay, all those types of things. They're going to take you for a drive you're going to drive through the parking lot, residential areas, depending on where you are in relation to schools. They may take you through a school zone. Don't speed in a school zone, okay? Get up to speed as quickly as possible. As I was saying before, space management, speed management, observation, and communication. 3 to 4 second following distance. If you're not near anything, it's less likely that you're going to hit anything. Okay, speed, the flow of traffic or the speed limit, whichever is less, and don't dawdle. Okay, communication. You need to communicate effectively with other traffic. Shoulder checking. You have to shoulder check during a driver's test. It's the most common mistake that causes students to fail their driver's test is shoulder checking, not shoulder checking effectively. Corey will put up the video for you on shoulder checking. Signaling, minimum 3 flashes on the signal before you change directions of the vehicle. Okay, first flash is to get the attention of the other driver, road user. Second flash is to get them to locate you. And then the third flash, is for them to do something to help you out. If you're changing lanes, they'll speed up and get past you, or they'll slow down and create a gap and allow you to move over into the other lane. All right. Position of your vehicle on the roadway, so lane positioning, moving right lane to right lane, left lane to left lane, executing left-hand turns, residential areas, those types of things. Now, in Saskatchewan, you're going to do parallel parking, 3-point turn, and you're going to back into a parking space. So be able to do those 3 maneuvers for the purpose of your test. Okay, so communication and then observation. You have to have a forward scanning pattern when you're driving down the road. Check your center mirror, instrument panel, down the road, wing mirror, down the road, and then check your other wing mirror as you're driving. You need to repeat that every 10 to 15 seconds. Make sure that when you're driving the vehicle and you're looking in the mirrors, you're moving your head, okay? Moving your eyes isn't enough. You can't drive the vehicle safely without moving your head. Reversing, you can use a backup camera. You can look at it, but you got to be looking out through the back window. Make sure you do a 360-degree scan around the vehicle before you start reversing. Keep in mind keep an awareness of where other road users are in relationship to your vehicle, okay? Practice those slow speed maneuvers because they will improve your overall driving in preparation for the test. And that's pretty much it, okay? So speed management, space management, observation, and communication. And if you want more detail on that, Corey will put up the video for you on 4 techniques and skills. Actually, Corey just put up the video on, or the playlist on must-see videos before your driver's test, and all that will help you out. Zamfer, the test itself reveals enough about your knowledge about the road rules. Yes, it does, even though it's short. As I have told students in the past, I can get in the vehicle with you, and within 6 blocks, I can tell you whether you can drive or not, okay? Whether you're confident and can drive or not. Klaus, our location is Rechlin at the Mertz Lake. That's the biggest lake in Germany. We don't go to the North Seas this year. Okay, excellent. Excellent. Corey's put up the head check. Auto transport train, then we don't have that here in Canada. No, unfortunately, we don't have a good public transportation system. You pretty much have to own a car here. Excellent. You are most welcome, my friend. Zamfir, I was a passenger at another student's driver's test, and at some point the student tried to cross a double solid line to overtake a parked car. He asked the examiner if it was allowed to cross it. And Zamfir, if the way is blocked, like say for example by a garbage truck or by a parked vehicle or those types of things, and Corey will put up the video with you on the driving test with Big Mac Sam. We were on residential streets in the Bronx in New York, and there were double solid lines, and you had to move over the double solid lines to move around the vehicle, okay? So, yes, you can, but you have to do it safely, okay? You have to change lanes from one lane to the other. So you have to mirror signal shoulder check, you have to move around into the other lane, and then you have to mirror signal shoulder check back. So have a look at all of that. Corey will put up that video for you on safely moving around other objects, and that will keep you safe when you're driving as well. And the test wasn't successful, and that's unfortunate that happened because, you know, but there was probably too many other things that were going on. The student was uncertain of what they were doing, and then they didn't do the checks that they needed to do, and they didn't communicate effectively with other traffic to be able to do that and move around the parked vehicles. I was unsuccessful with the test in New York City because I'm not immersed in the culture of not turning right on red lights, right? And in Europe, you can't turn right on red lights. Melbourne, Australia, you can't turn right on red lights. So it's the 5 boroughs of New York City: Manhattan, the Bronx, Queens, Staten Island, and Brooklyn. You can't turn right on a red light. The island of Montreal, you can't turn right on a red light. And I got distracted because we were in the Bronx and we're driving up this residential street, and there were some services and, you know, mechanic shops and those types of things. And there was a car on the side of the road that was sitting on jack stands, and I was distracted by the car sitting on jack stands. I'm like, that car is sitting on the road on jack stands. I'm like, oh my God. And I come up to the red light, and of course I got distracted and come up to the red light, stopped, looked, checked, and then I went, and Sam started laughing. He's like, you just failed your driver's test because you can't turn right on a red light in the Bronx. And that's what happened. So this is why, coming back to the point before where I was talking about talking to students and asking them the questions while you're driving is not good, because I'm a veteran driver, right? I got distracted by something that was an oddity to me on the side of the road, and then of course, you know, I didn't think about what I needed to do at the stop sign, which was not make a right on a red light, and I failed my driver's test. Excellent. Okay. Elevator fan, if you were flying to your destination, book your flight ahead of time. Yes, absolutely. And of course, you're going to get a better deal on booking your flights ahead of time because, you know, there's lots of specials and those types of things. You know, it's interesting. Inflation, we have inflation, no doubt, but you can still get a flight across Canada for $500, which is great. Rick, my son Declan will be using this and has absorbed your other videos. You know what you're talking about and explain it so well. Excellent. Thank you so much for your kind words, Rick. And that is awesome that we can help Declan out there to pass his driver's test. Awesome, awesome. And Corey's put up the video on instructor takes a new New York City driving test. Yes, and I was not successful. I was chagrined by that. That was one little thing. But unfortunately, you know, that's what happens. But the other piece of that, and the lesson that you can take from that is not like, oh, haha, Rick failed his driver's test. It wasn't that. It was the fact that I didn't practice, right? If I had a few lessons where I had driven around in the Bronx and I had actually practiced, then I would have known the road rules and I would have passed the driver's test. But I went in cold, right? Sam and I had a meeting. We showed up. I hooked the cameras up to the car and we went for a drive, right? I didn't practice. Now, you know, it became second nature when I was driving in Melbourne, Australia, and when I was driving in Spain 2 years ago, that, you know, I knew that you had to wait for the red light before you could make a right turn. And it just, you know, after a day or so of driving around these cities, I knew that I had to wait for the green light before I could turn right. You couldn't turn right on a red light in the city of Madrid and Barcelona and those types of places. And it just becomes second nature. So the lesson to take away from that is to practice. We do what we practice on the test when we get anxious, okay? And you are going to be anxious. You're going to be nervous when you're taking your driver's test. Anybody is. Anybody who's testing you is going to cause you to have a bit of nerves, okay? So it's not a big deal. Emily, what's the best way to keep drivers' mirrors clean in rain or snowstorms? Emily, I saw this on a video. A couple of hacks on how to keep your mirrors clean and those types of things. One of the best ways is just to keep some wet naps in the car and then you could just wipe them clean, right? Now, you can get some Rain-X. Rain-X works exceptionally well. Windshield wiper cleaner and those types of things can, you know, cause it to bead and those types of things. And you can get the washer fluid that will go in and it will do that as well. So that's one of the ways you can do that. Now, the other piece is if you're driving on highways and they're dirty and grimy and all those types of things, you get lots of gunk on your car. Go into a fuel station and clean your glass off and whatnot. But that's the best way to do it. I wish I got toothpaste. That's what it was. They were putting toothpaste on the mirror and then they were wiping it off and they were showing that that would cause the rain to completely, or the water rather, to completely sheet off the mirror. So try that. Try toothpaste and see if that works for you. Marion, my sister-in-law was floored when she came here and drove. They don't have right on red in New Zealand. Okay, so New Zealand as well doesn't have right on red lights. And yes, for those uninitiated, those come from New York City, those come from Europe, New Zealand, Australia, other places. Yes, crazy that we have right on red lights. And this is another piece of the driving test that can catch you out. Right on red lights. If it's not busy, you can turn right on a red light, but make sure you come to a stop, complete stop, at the correct stopping position, give way to all the road users, and then proceed, okay? Because, you know, I had a student, I've told this story before, we were coming up to a T intersection. I said to the student, I said, okay, make a right at the traffic light, come up to the T intersection, the light is red. The student didn't even slow down, just went around the corner and carried on. Of course, me, with my sarcastic sense of humor, was laughing, and the student's like, what's so funny? And I was like, well, you didn't stop at the red light, because that's what a red light means, is stop. He's like, well, there's nobody coming, I could just go. And I was like, no, you can't. So yeah, you know, I did fill him in that you failed your driver's test if you don't come to a complete stop. Now, on a driver's test, if it is busy, yes, you can wait for the light to turn green. If it's not busy, then you will have to turn right on the red light on your driver's test. Klaus, we make the summertime road trips in June. We don't drive in August because it's the holiday season. All people will be jamming the holiday places, and it's crazy. Yes, I understand exactly what you're saying, Klaus, and this is what I was talking about in terms of if you're traveling. Now, it shouldn't be too bad because we're traveling in late August, and of course, a lot of people are getting home and getting ready to go back to school and those types of things, so it shouldn't be too bad. But do take note, for those of you who want to do road trips in the summertime, that it is going to be incredibly busy in July and August, and make sure you have everything booked and you know how far you're going to travel in every day, and you're going to get to that next hotel and those types of things, because like I said, you may not even find a place at the campsite in your tent and whatnot, so you need to book your hotels early and plan well so that you can arrive at your destination safely. Thank you so much for an awesome live stream. Thank you for all the questions. Good luck on your driver's test. If you had a driver's test in the last couple of weeks, good, and you passed, congratulations. If you have a test coming up in the next week or so, good luck on that. And remember, pick the best answer, not necessarily the right answer. Have a great night. Bye now.